Okay, so winter's on its way, and the first thing I'm going to start thinking about is keeping dry and keeping warm. Nothing worse than being out on the water to concentrate on the fishing when you're wet and cold. And after many years of wearing wet weather gear, I now realise that the best place to start shopping is your high street shops, such as Mountain Warehouse, Trespass, or even the Army Surplus store. You're going to get a lot more for your money. One other thing is to keep a few of these surgical gloves handy. This is going to keep the water off your hands. When you're putting that line out on that freezing cold water and stripping it in, it ain't going to take long for your hands to start freezing up. So keeping that water off your hand does help. You're probably sat there now thinking you could be crazy going out in weather like that. But to be honest, we've had some great fishing in conditions like this, and certainly in the winter months when the fish are in their prime, they fight really hard, and you're going to end up with a lot more fishing space as there's less people on the water. But winter doesn't always mean wet and windy. We're obviously going to get those really cold mornings, still waters, and sometimes bright sunshine. But there is one thing with winter fishing: we're not going to get the telltale signs as often as what we do in the summer months. The rise form from the fish can tell us so much about what it might be feeding on, what level it's at, and sometimes what pace it's moving at. But obviously winter, we've got to use a different approach. And the approach we use is process of elimination. So there are many methods and different approaches that we can use on the water. Some will be a recommend, some it might be that we were out previously and discovered what method was working, but it doesn't mean it's going to work today. But what I would definitely stick with is the method or the approach, whatever you have most confidence in, and you start with that. And if that then fails, you then put that to rest and move on. So we would normally associate winter with lures, but our climate is changing and winters are becoming milder, and this means we have more opportunity to fish smaller patterns. And when we have longer spells of mild weather, these small patterns, they can produce more than the lure, and on this day it's a lot milder. So starting out, if you're not sure what to use, lures are a good bet. You can fish them a lot quicker, you can move around the water, and you can locate where the fish are. But we soon discovered lures weren't really hitting the fish, and we were fishing the lures quite quick. We were letting them drop and fishing them slow. The only response we had with the lures was the fish were prepared to just follow, and they were quite happy to go at a bit of pace. So we decided if they're not going to take the lure, we'll scale it down. I switched straight to a nymph that I was fishing probably a week or two ago. This pattern I've tied up on a 12, 14 and a 16 size hook. Dyed olive pheasant tail. It's got a copper rib in there, that's quite a heavy rib, and a pearly thorax. But ever since I've tied these patterns, I've been using them on the water and I've shared them out, and everybody's doing really well with them. And the thing is, we're finding we can fish them static, a steady figure of 8, stripping them just below the surface pretty quick, and the fish hitting them from all angles. And if this pattern keeps catching fish over the next few months, it'll soon be joining the rest of our must-have fly. But whatever method or pattern that you decide to use, be prepared to switch. If you want to be more consistent, you're going to have to switch, as it isn't very often that you'll find a method or a pattern last in the day. And I've been asked many times before as to when would you switch a pattern or a method, and that's a tricky one to answer. But most definitely, as soon as you lose confidence in that method or that pattern, you've got to switch. So what about the lines? What lines are we going to use in the winter? Well, it doesn't really change much in the winter any longer, apart from you're probably going to use the sink lines and intermediate lines a bit more than you would any other time of the year. But if you have yourself a floating line, an intermediate and a faster sink line, obviously the sink lines are for when you want to get down the bottom. You might be wanting to present the booby down on the bottom or a blob, and this is a great method on the day. The intermediate, more for presenting patterns mid-water at a faster pace, and then the floating line for when we want to keep patterns higher in the columns, or even fishing the patterns at depth at slow pace. Okay, so the conditions are quite mild as I've said, and we've spent the last hour going around the lake with the lures. You're always hopeful on the lures that you'll pick up a few fish. But while we was going round with the lures, what we did find out is that the fish are quite dispersed, and this water was stocked about a week and a half ago. So you'd normally find in the summer months 3 days and they start dispersing. Sometimes in the winter months it'll take a little longer. So we're hoping that we'll still find a bit of a shoal somewhere, but as of yet we've not located them. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to switch back to the damsel nymphs. Tidy little pattern, but the fishing, it's really slow today. Ray was here this morning, he fishes this morning, every Saturday morning, and he picked a few up off the bottom with the blob. He didn't get much after, it went very quiet for him after a while. I've tried weighted patterns, Justin's been on weighted patterns, all the other boys here fishing. So there's a good few on the water. Okay, so Justin's just picked another fish up. Now he was over on that far arm and he was fishing with a size 16 black buzzer. Steady to fast figure of 8, and he had 3 fish. But now he's got to this side and he's found that the buzzer is a bit slow, so he's upped it to a size 14 and he's got a black nymph on with a small black bead. Now you're going to love this one. This is another great way to catch fish. I didn't even know I had the fish on. I was moving the camera. Now this is why we fish this time of the year. This fish, not the biggest fish in the lake, but I tell you, it was so strong. I'm normally quite quick at getting fish in. I do bully them a bit, but there was no way you were going to be bullying this fish. And by the end of this, I was quite tired myself. I haven't even had a look at him yet. That's a good fish. Bloody hell. Come on. Oh yeah. Oh.
He's on the cast of the leaf then, Shaun.
Yeah.
I'm taking the hook off, I have.
Take knock off. Oh yeah. Justin's in again. It didn't take long, and I wouldn't mind betting there's a small shoal of stock he's just moved in front of him.
Again.
Wow. And again.
Here we go.
And again.
What a fish, man. It's about 4 pounds worth, Shaun.
My turn.
on another one.
Okay, about half hour or so later, I moved into where Justin was. I was still fishing the olive nymph, but that was giving me no joy. Bear in mind what Justin was fishing. He had the black nymph on, which had a small bead, so I've decided to put the red apps on. I haven't fished this for quite a while, but it is a very good pattern. I can fish this on a 20-foot tippet, let it drop to the bottom, bouncing it on the bottom, and it picks up a lot of fish, mid-water and top of the water. But what I found really good with this pattern is you put it out, you let it drop a bit, because it does drop very quick, and steady long draws, keeping it more continuous, and it does pick up a lot of fish. Okay, after a bit of a tea break, I thought I'd get back over here and fish with the intermediate. Got about a 10-foot tippet on to a black and green fritz. Now the black and green fritz, it's a great fish attractor, but I do find I lose a few fish with this. Obviously with the longer tail, sometimes the fish are coming up and just picking at it. But on other occasions, they're hammering it. So why I've decided to fish the intermediate is because I want to get down in the columns a bit and fish it faster. Whereas on the floating line, obviously, the quicker I'm going, the higher it starts to climb. Okay, things went a bit quiet on that pattern, but before changing it, what I thought I'd do is just try a few different retrieves. Try it a bit deeper, a bit slower, and a bit higher, a bit faster. And obviously once I started bringing it higher and faster, the fish hit it. So if you've been fishing a pattern with a certain retrieve, before giving it up, switch the retrieves. Try fishing it a bit slower or even a bit faster, checking out all the different levels. And you may well find the fish will pick up on it again.
Comes the rain. Proper rain. Oof.
Well, that rain lasted for about 15 minutes, and during that time the wind got really strong. Not long after that I picked up this fish, but what I'm fishing with now is a size 16 red buzzer. What I do is put it out, let it drop a little bit, and a fairly steady to fast figure of 8. Now this fish is so powerful. I am really struggling with this fish, but in total this fish played for over 5 minutes and I could not do nothing with it. To be honest with you, I've never had nothing like this before, apart from when you do foul hook a fish. But regardless of whether it is foul hooked or not, I've got to get this fish in somehow to unhook it. Now you might be wondering how the hell you foul hook a fish with a size 16 buzzer. It has happened to me before. I think that what is happening is the fish is coming up to take the pattern and suddenly turns off and catches the hook, and it's just a chance in a million, but it can happen. The other one is that the fish could have taken the pattern and during the fight twisting and turning so much that the tippet has got caught around the fish. Okay, after a while my forearm is starting to get tired. I can really feel it. So luckily I'm on the reel. So what I've done, I've upped the drag. I've done this on 2 occasions. Get the reel to do more of the work.
Tangled up.
Okay, it appears that the line was caught around the fish, but somehow it's got itself free. Not long following that, it gets free of the hook. But as that fish swam away, I could see it smiling, knowing that it just battered me. Okay, another piece of water, still on the buzzer with the floating line and about a 15-foot of tippet. Again, putting the buzzer out, let it drop a bit, and a steady but fast figure of 8. So the conditions for today were a lot milder. It did start off quite cold, but it was a lot milder during the day, so this may not be considered as a winter fishing video. I hope to bring you more of a hardcore winter video very soon, but it's important to remember whenever you're fishing this time of the year, if it's a lot colder, make sure you wrap up, and obviously be prepared to switch. You may well put a pattern on in the morning as we did and find it's not working, but later on in the day, as temperatures and conditions change, it's worth trying again. What you may have noticed during the video is that there was more importance paid to the speed and the depth that we were fishing rather than the pattern. More often than not, we were switching patterns but maintaining the depth and the speed. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Until the next one, take care.